area between two curves. Now, area between two curves is a really important and also pretty cool concept. With the area between two curves, the formula is this. It's the integral of b to a of f of x minus g of x dx. That's important because there's going to be multiple formulas for similar concepts later on. So let's just go to a problem right away. Area between y equals 3x cubed minus x squared minus 10x and y equals negative x squared plus 2x. Now with a problem like this, they're not actually giving me points. They're not actually giving me the b to a that I would want in this equation. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to set the two equations equal to each other to solve it. This also helps with my graph, which will help with my equation later on, you'll see. So I set them equal to each other, and I calculate it to be 0. Well, I don't calculate it to be 0. I flip them to the sides and make one side equal to 0. I calculate, I get x equals negative 2, 0, and 2. And this is very important for this particular problem, for this reason. When you draw out the graph, one is this little squiggly line, and another is a downwards parabola. So basically, negative 2 is right here, 0 is right here, and 2 is right here. So basically this is the limits of the graph. So we're trying to find the area between this curve and this curve. So we draw them out, and it's very important to draw this because it helps you form an idea of what this problem is like, and it also helps with your equations later on. So basically I usually fill it in to help myself see what parts there are. But if you notice in this graph, there's two sectors that are filled in on either side of the 0. So let's go on and you'll see the significance of that. So, big rule. Remember that the order is important. So basically the formula with the highest graph is going to go first. So let's zoom out and go back to here. If you look, in this quadrant, this sector, the squiggly line is on top, it's highest. And the squiggly line's formula is y equals 3x cubed minus x squared minus 10x. So that's the one that's going to go first when you write out your equation. From 0 to negative 2. 0 to negative 2. So we write it out, and you do, just like in the equation up here, you write it out, you subtract that, and then you're going to add the next quadrant, which is from here to here, from 0 to 2. But this is very important right here, because if you look, this one is first now instead of this one. Why is that? Well, that one's on top. This time the parabola is higher than the squiggly line. So it's important that you put the one that is highest on the graph on top in the equation. So you got from 0 to 2, or from 2 to 0, just like the graph showed, and you're going to have the same thing. And keep in mind, this is one equation. I just didn't have enough room to write it all out on one line. So you keep going, and you're just going to simplify it, and now I have enough room to put it on one line, because you can basically take this and you add it into that, or I should say subtract it into that. So you got this, and it's still it's not integrated yet. This is not the integral. This is the integral. So now we have the integral of this, the integral of that, but remember the 0, negative 2, and the 2 and 0 are still on the outside. This is when you put them in. Right here is very important. In this particular equation, because we have a 0 on top, because there's a negative 2 on the bottom, the lower one always goes lowest. Got a 0 on top, you're going to have to remember there's going to be 0 minus 12 minus 24, which is the 2 plugged into there. So there's going to be a negative in front of that equation. You do not want to forget that. Next one, it's not that hard because you got the 0 on the end. So it's pretty similar to the other one. You just do the other side of the equation. Once you add all this and subtract it all together, you're going to get 12 plus 12, which is 24. So 24 is basically this curve and this curve combined. So that's what 24.